Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Jacquelyn Melinek. I'm senior crypto reporter at TechCrunch. I am joined here today with Keith Grossman, the president of Time, and Mike Novogratz, the founder and CEO of Galaxy Digital. I think before we start, we are going to watch a quick video of something that they launched and announced today. So.
Hey! I worked all night on that thing.
I know.
Yeah. So I guess to start, guys, what's the purpose of this? Why does this matter? And how are both of your companies kind of like working to onboard people through NFTs and through this Explorer collection?
Well, let me start. First, welcome. It's good to be here. Listen, this idea came from a love of NFTs, but we thought, how do we connect, how do we give the keys to the Galaxy Kingdom to our portfolio investments, to our employees, to our partners, to the community that we're trying to help build? And so we thought, let's use this new technology in the purest way, where we're passing out these 3,000 odd NFTs to people that we care about. And, you know, we'll see what happens with them. But right now, you know, it's a spirit-building exercise. It's a community-building exercise. We got 3 awesome artists. If they ever trade in the secondary market, all the proceeds will go to the artists. So Time and Galaxy, we're not making any money out of this thing. But we did it, in some ways, in this environment, which, you know, it kind of has not been a ton of fun to run a crypto company or be a crypto investor or an NFT investor. And we wanted to say loud and clear that, A, we're here. We're here for the long haul, and this technology is here for the long haul. Like, NFTs are going to be one of the biggest users of blockchains in the next year, but in the next 15 years, 20 years. And so we're really bullish on the space, and we wanted to kind of symbolically make that really clear. And we picked Time because I like this guy. They've been great partners with us for a while, and they've got a really cool business, which Keith can tell you a little bit about.
So, you know, we took Time into the Web3 space about 20 months ago. And when we did it, you know, I'm sure as all of you experience, the first time we announced it, everyone asked me the same question, which was, are you on drugs? Are you drinking? And the reality was we just saw sort of the evolution of this technology and how it was going to change the relationship between our brand and consumers. And as we kept on building out Timepieces, which is our community effort, we got really good at realizing how we had to build the tech on the front end for a big brand, from a security perspective, and whatnot. Since we launched Timepieces, and today is actually the 1-year anniversary of Timepieces, we have dropped over 30,000 NFTs. We have over 55,000 members in our community, and we've started to onboard other people into the ecosystem as well. So, you know, we had this big announcement with the city of Miami and MasterCard and Salesforce NFT Cloud. And we've been partnering with Galaxy since, you know, well over a year at this point. First, in bringing the Metaverse to life to our consumers in a mass audience outside of sort of the existing crypto ecosystem. And then, you know, when we saw the opportunity to take some of the timepiece artists and bring them to life with Galaxy, we thought this was a really great community building effort.
So you two have partnered in the past, like Time and Galaxy, and I feel like, you know, a year ago, NFTs were the hype. Everyone was so excited to get into it. And now, like, we still have a pretty strong NFT marketplace, but it's died down a tiny bit. I guess, like, for the partnerships and getting involved in NFTs, where do you see that kind of evolving, and how has it changed through your partnerships and collaborations in the past to where we are now?
Well, I would first say it hasn't died down a little bit. It's died down a lot. Right? There was a frenzy of speculative activity, and a lot of people's first education with NFTs, their first participation was gambling, right? Was speculation, and it was fun. Then it morphed into collecting, and so what's important if you step back, the big picture, right? Satoshi gave us Bitcoin. It was the first private property on the internet. Think about it, there was no private property before Satoshi. This idea that we can have unique digital objects that live in the metaverse, that live online, that's what NFTs really brought to light to the masses, right? Not just the crypto nerds that are probably in this room, but all the people that played in NBA Top Shop or Candy or now on timepieces are being introduced to the fact that blockchains allow us to prove digital scarcity. And when you think about where the world is going, like if you take out your phone and say how much time you spent on your phone today, it's probably averages 6 hours for this crowd. But if you were 15 years younger, it would probably be 10 hours, right? We're moving more and more to an online world. We're living in the metaverse. And we don't yet have the screens, the cool screens that are coming, or when Google gives us, the AR glasses that really work, that are coming, or the Oculuses or versions of that. As we move more and more into the metaverse, unique digital objects, NFTs, are going to be that much more important, and that's more valuable. I love this technology because it allows me to connect a community. If it's a baseball or sports fan community, a rock and roll community, a Korean, boy band community, or the time community.
I mean, for me, like I started my career at Wired and Ars Technica, and like I've seen this story before. I feel like if you've seen it, if you've been around since 1998 forward, a lot of adoption takes place in euphoria. Then there's sort of like people pull back, and a lot of real great building emerges from that moment in time. And Mike said it best. It started off and it was speculative, and like you really would have thought that NFTs could cure anything. But the reality is it stayed in the gambling space, it stayed in the collectible space, it stayed in the art space. But like the future of this technology will probably just be invisible. We probably will not say the word NFT in 5 years, but like we'll see it evolve, not at the expense of collectibles. I think those will still remain, but towards subscriptions and memberships, loyalty programs, rewards. I think like when you look at like announcements over the past 3 weeks, I think things like Starbucks coming out with its rewards is a really interesting sort of example. I think yesterday with MoonPay and Universal Studios, really interesting example. But like we're at this phase where the technology's leading and the experiences is secondary. And what we need to do is flip it. We need to have that Steve Jobs moment where he like held out the iPod and he said 1,000 songs in your pocket. Like we just haven't had that yet. When you think about where we are when we're talking about the technology, like that is the spec stage of the technological adoption. And like there was this moment where we were all sitting there going, oh, I have a 486 computer, I have a Pentium computer, I have a 14.4 BPS modem, I have 8 megs of RAM, I have whatever. Intel ran a campaign called Intel Inside. Today, nobody cares what chips they have in their phone, and the reality is like nobody's going to care what blockchain they use in the future. Nobody's going to care, what the tech is. They just want the experience to work, and what this technology can do will be incredible in those latter experiences.
There's a lot of opportunity here to build things and build things right. And as two major companies, both in the traditional space and the crypto space, who has collaborated in the NFT world and the metaverse and everything, I feel like perhaps you two have a different perspective and ability to kind of like explain further what pockets are there that needs to be improved upon for the metaverse and the NFT, and where can we do this in a way that it becomes successful long term and it's not something that's just like a fad.
Sure. Well, sure. Listen, you can step back and not just talk about NFTs, but blockchain-based systems in general. Like blockchain-based systems are trust machines, right? We got engaged in this industry because of a skepticism of governments or big businesses, or there was a breakdown in trust and you wanted the trust machines. But people have to learn to use them. They need to learn to trust the trust machines, right? There's an education and an adoption curve that all this stuff goes through. And so there'll be some simple things like ticketing. Like pretty soon all your tickets will be NFTs. not just digital tickets. We're moving really fast in everyone having digital tickets, but there'll be NFTs. And quite frankly, if you're a rock and roll band that have sold their tickets for $100 each and the tickets end up being $800 for all their fans, they'll be like, that doesn't feel great to us. They'll have some ability to either collect those profits themselves, donate those profits to charity, dividend those profits back into their fans. You know, like the technology is so clear that we're going that way. And all of a sudden, everybody who goes to a sporting event or a Broadway show will have a wallet that has NFTs. And so we will have these Trojan horse ways of this technology just being ubiquitous. And I think user experience, user interface, it's improving. It's not there yet. But it takes time, right? You know, so early adopters always will sign up for a MetaMask wallet and try to figure out how the damn thing works. And you gotta go on your mainframe to log onto your phone, which still confuses me. But all of a sudden, it's going to be easier and easier.
I mean, I grew up with Nintendo and Atari and Sega, and like I could now look at the world and understand why everything is gamified today. And I have an 8-year-old daughter, and she uses Roblox every day, right? And that's a metaverse experience, and she is learning in the metaverse, in a metaverse. And I think that there will be elements that will slowly work themselves into the current generations, right? But I think that as you go 20 years out, like there's no doubt in my mind that there's going to be entire generations that grew up, you know, using these experiences as though they're just as natural the way that I look at everything today, and I can understand why everything in my life is gamified.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, one thing just to emphasize, if you think how long it took, you know, I remember starting to sell Bitcoin to people in 2014, and I would have to explain, you know, why you couldn't control copy paste. And there was the double spend problem and the generals problem, and I could never remember if they were Byzantine generals or Persians. And, you know, it was a complicated sales process for people to believe that this magic internet money actually was unique. With NFTs, that happened really fast, right? People just believed that one of those video clips on NBA Top Shop or one of Dmitry Cherniak's paintings, in the generative art space was unique. And so we've made a huge amount of progress. It's this idea that things are unique, and as we get more and more people to believe it, it literally has an unlimited TAM. Right? And if you just think the world is going more and more online, right? You go to work, you log into your computer, you're online, you're online all the time. As this idea of buying and selling unique objects and transferring them online continues to grow, this is by far, I think, the most explosive space, in the entire blockchain universe.
All right. So going off of that most explosive space, I guess, will NFTs and the metaverse be the driving factor for the next or first billion users into this space? And going off of the ticket prices and getting these wallets and everything that you two talked about, what really will be the driving factor here? Is this what you believe in, or?
Yeah, I certainly think your first billion people that operate on blockchains are going to do it through NFTs. Yeah. They're going to do it because some of the big platforms, you think about these, like the K-pop bands, they have monster fan bases. I mean, hundreds of millions of people. If they get into this business and want to sell, NFT merchandise to their fan base, those fans will figure out how to use, NFTs. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to see some of the traditional big media companies, radio stations, getting engaged, building their own metaverses out. There's a company that we have. We're not an investor, and I wish we were. We're the banker for, called Improbable, who build metaverses. And what they mean by metaverses in this case is they build these universes like this, but where you can show up with your avatar and up to 10,000 people can communicate. And they're way ahead of everybody else in this space right now. And it's shocking to see who's lined up. I was talking to the CEO, and he had just got off the phone with Mick Jagger. Like, who's lined up to do business with these guys? Every major brand is wanting to build their stadium, their concert hall, their place. And so that's great. That doesn't have to be on a blockchain, right? If you're Chanel and you want the Chanel Metaverse, it doesn't have to be on a blockchain. But if you're going to sell unique digital objects, they do. And so as an NFT designer, builder, participant, we want more and more of those metaverses, because that's where this idea of unique digital goods are going to live.
I agree, and you actually said something at Christie's in the conference that I want to allude to in a second, but I think that the next billion users that come into the space are not even going to know that they're interacting with NFTs. They'll be invisible. They'll be behind the scenes. Again, like, not to reference like Starbucks, but a lot of users are going to come in without realizing that the technology is even there. But what the technology will do is it will create far more efficiencies, and it will remove a lot of the waste that exists. I think that if you want to look at where these users are most likely going to be generating their NFTs from, I think it's going to be from places like Salesforce NFT Cloud, Hypermint from MoonPay. I just think that these platforms are going to just push out an insane amount of NFTs, but they're going to be invisible to the consumer behind the scenes. You made this point, and I thought this was it actually changed my perception on the space, which was that more people will enter into the space from existing Web 2 brands that adopt this technology and onboard than from Web 3 players who try to build audiences. Now, I think that the technologies will probably be Web 3 native that help the Web 2 brands evolve, but like iHeartRadio, which was one of the examples you used, or even Time, right, which reaches 100 million people a month, is going to do more to sort of move mass people into the space because it's so hard to aggregate communities and audiences.
What are some...
We have an investment in a company called Candy, which does Major League Baseball NFTs, but they also have been working with Netflix. And just on the Stranger Things drop, they had over 100,000 people sign up, to try to get one of the NFTs. So that's 100,000 people that got a new wallet, right? Wait till Squid Game Season 2 comes out. I could give you a little heads up on what's happening, but you violate my NDA there.
Is that another Fidelity moment?
What?
Another Fidelity moment?
I love spilling the beans. But these big platforms are going to bring a lot of people into the space. Now, will it generate huge revenue right away? No, a lot of this stuff is going to come free or come cheap to get people used to getting in the space and seeing how it works. But that idea that once it becomes comfortable, and then if there's value created, right, value because you want to collect something, value because you want to use something, value because it's gamified, you're going to start seeing more and more transactions.
So there's a lot of talk about community, and that definitely drives a lot of things. Makes sense why people would want to buy NFTs of brands they love, TV shows they love. What are some utilities that you could see coming from NFTs in the metaverse that don't exist yet, that no one has talked about, and that in a couple of years' time we'll look back and be like, why didn't we think of this? What are some of your thoughts on that, both of you?
I keep saying this, and I hope I'm right, but I'd be shocked if in 10 years your healthcare records aren't NFTs.
Totally.
I think when you go to the hospital, actually Apple's got a pretty good app on your phone that you can get your healthcare records on, and they protect your privacy, but it's not easy. And so you go to the hospital and you want to give your doctor your medical stuff, it should be an NFT.
Yeah, I mean, healthcare, your driver's license, passport, house deeds, car records. I mean, everyone loves to focus on things like the Bored Apes or, like the communities or the art. But really, go to the most mundane areas that have, if there's any industry that lacks transparency, NFTs are a great fix for that industry. And I think those industries will be tremendously disrupted. And by the way, not surprising why the art industry was one of the first industries to be disrupted, because it completely lacks transparency.
I'm glad you brought up the Bored Apes, because I wanted to ask you two a question on this. in terms of these blue chip NFTs, do you see them lasting long term and turning into like media brands and bigger entities? Because I've seen that argument. We've seen like, the Bored Apes are collaborating and creating like shows and stuff. But do you see them lasting long term, or do you see their like being almost like temporary waves of big blue chip NFTs?
I think they're connecting to a generation of people that identify with them, right? In my generation, there's this great, if you're my age, there's this great Twitter account called Super 80s Sports or Super 70s Sports. And every day the guy puts something up there and I'm like, oh my God, it's like my brother. Like, how does he read my mind? Like, so you're connecting to your generation. So in 10 years, the Bored Ape people are going to be telling their kids about it. They're going to want T-shirts and like this is, they've created a media brand, and so there'll be merch and there'll be cartoon shows, and what I find really interesting is, and we're still working on different business models. If I own a 1 out of 1 NFT, it's got some value, but when I own a 1 out of 10,000, it's got more value because the community creates value. So if that NFT's image is being used for something else, how much should I get? How much should the community get? How much should the creator get? Like, all those business models will get sorted out over time. Some will win, some won't win. Right now, there's a whole, litany of different ways people have approached it. But you have to remember, we weren't even talking the word NFT 19 months ago. It's such a baby industry that the regulatory framework around it, the accepted rules that people decide are this is the way it should play. None of that's been really formalized yet.
I mean, look, you take the Iliad, right? The Iliad's probably the most famous story ever, most famous poem ever written, right?
Which one?
Or the Iliad, right? There was a point where it was memorized, and then there was a point where it was written down. And then there was a point where it was digitized. And then there was a point where you could say, Alexa, read me the Iliad, and it would read you the Iliad. And I'm sure someone will come out with an NFT that's fully decentralized, interactive version of the Iliad. And in this instance, with the collectibles, really what it comes down to is IP. And you look at the apes, and what they have is great IP. And IP transcends platform or delivery. And if you think about it, it is connecting with the generation. It is irrelevant. There will probably be people who connect with the apes in 5 years or 10 years who have no clue that it even was an NFT collection, and that's totally fine because it will penetrate itself out. And if you look at Hollywood today, what do you have? You have Thor, you have Spider-Man, you have Batman. These were all based off of comic books, right? That most people don't know were comic books, but that are repurposed for a new generation. Just comes down to great IP in the collectible space.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you two so much, Keith.
Oh, wait a minute. Can we just say one thing? We're going to put
Yes.
We're going to put a QR code up here. You're right. I like this. This is so good because I get to see everyone's phones come out. And here's the deal.
Future.
So this drop has 3,210 pieces. It's called the Explorer Collection. It's based off of Galaxy's rebrand because it's, it's an astronaut helmet. And think about the collection size, 3,210, okay? A very finite group of people are being invited in. These are Galaxy's investors and partners and community. And then there's communities such as timepieces that will be invited in, but also everyone that's at Mainnet will get an invite. If you scan it, you'll be put on the registration list for the airdrop. It's a free airdrop. If you trade it, 100% of the proceeds on the secondary market are going to the 3 artists, Jake Andrew, Paran Haderi, and Will Kwaka'amo. Just so you know, and this is my favorite thing because they're 3 amazing timepiece artists, Jake and Paran are both have synesthesia. So when they hear sound, they see colors. These are 3 amazing artists. We hope you love the collection. We hope you enjoy it. We hope you don't sell it, but if you do sell it, 100% of the proceeds go to the artist. This was really designed to support the NFT community. And so thank you all so much. Thank you so
Mike,
much.
thank you so much. I appreciate it, guys. And
Thank
thank
you,
you, everyone,
guys.
for joining us.